Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in this episode of The Hypnotist, you're going to be listening to an emotional eating hypnosis session. And this was created for a client that I was working with that actually was losing weight, but she was frustrated that when there would be certain evenings that she felt bored with nothing to do, she would then find herself eating things like cookies and popcorn. And that's a very understandable reaction because throughout people's lives, we learn that eating actually does change our mood and it does give us something to do, and it's quite convenient. But it's not necessarily without its consequences because it can create sugar addictions and a desire for cravings for kind of processed foods. So what you're going to hear in this hypnosis session is what's known as nested loops. So stories within stories within stories. And these nested loops linked to a vision of a metaphor that represents how the mind will do things that has a good intention to protect, but sometimes has consequences. And then different ways in which she had changed her state and her mood without using food as the way of doing that. And for her, that was things like relaxing baths, exercise, or watching really good TV shows or movies. So that's what you're going to hear within this hypnosis session. A direct solution to the problem of boredom or frustration or anxiety or stress, but solving that problem in a way that actually helps both in the short term and the longer term to take her towards a more desirable future. If you are struggling with emotional eating, there will be a link in the show notes that you can book a free 30-minute consultation call with me just to explore what it would be like to work with me directly. But for now, find a quiet place where you won't be disturbed and enjoy this session because you might find that this actually helps you with your emotional eating and suggests alternatives to food as a coping strategy. So relax and enjoy. Take a deep breath in. As you breathe in a resourceful feeling of relaxation. And as you exhale, allow your eyelids to close. And as they close, notice that you can give more of your attention to the sound of my voice. And as you listen to the sound of my voice, notice that you can breathe in deeper and exhale deeper than you normally would, allowing feelings of resourceful relaxation to go in through your nose, and as you exhale, allowing feelings of tension, stress, worry, or anxiety to leave your body in your outward breath. So simply by breathing in and breathing out, you're able to go deeper and deeper relaxed to a place of calm and tranquility. As your body relaxes, I want you to use the power of your imagination to imagine a beautiful castle. And perhaps this castle is on a hill. Or maybe this castle is surrounded by a large moat with swans just gliding in the water around the castle. And I want you to imagine that this castle is in a faraway land, a different country, And I want you to imagine that you're there in that place, far away from your reality. I want you to imagine it's a beautiful sunny day. You can feel the warmth of the sun on your skin. And I want you to notice details about this castle. Maybe you notice the colour of the stone that the castle is made on. Maybe you notice the strange windows, or perhaps the tiny gaps that archers used to fire arrows all the way back hundreds of years ago. Notice that a castle back then had many functions. It had the function of protecting whatever was inside. But a castle also was a strategic place to house troops, armies. No different from a fort or barracks, just from a time long ago. I want you to think of your mind as much like a castle. It does things to protect you. And sometimes the mind encounters emotions that are uncomfortable. Sometimes these emotions are emotions based on fear, like anxiety, insecurity. Sometimes the emotions can be intense emotions like anger, rage, or frustration. Sometimes the emotions may be emotions like sadness or self-pity even. But every now and then, they might just be emotions that seem harmless, just like boredom. And I want you to accept the suggestion that if your mind evaluates that you're in an emotion that is not considered desirable, the function of this castle-like mind is to protect you. And it will go through your memories and find times where something worked, something changed your mood. And for many people, there was a time in their life where food actually helped. Maybe it was food, maybe it was a drink, but consuming that food or drink changed their mood in that moment. And the castle of your mind learned that that is a way to keep you safe from undesirable emotions. But it's not the only thing that works. I want you to remember a time where perhaps you were bored, or maybe were anxious, and maybe you were stressed. And just having a long relaxing bath completely changed your state. Perhaps you can imagine being in the bath. Imagine the water is the exact temperature that takes you to a feeling of deep relaxation. And maybe there are candles, and maybe those candles are scented. Maybe vanilla or jasmine or other fragrances that put you in a relaxing state. Maybe the lighting is dimmed to enable you to fully relax. Maybe there's bubbles or things added to the water, perhaps salts, to enable you to smell the smells and feel the sensation of bubbles on your skin, giving you a sense of deep relaxation. And I want you to accept the suggestion that a lovely bath is like a hug from yourself to yourself. And when a human hugs another human, the brain releases a biochemical, a neurotransmitter, a happy hormone called oxytocin. This makes you feel connected. And if a bath is a hug from yourself to yourself, you can access those wonderful feelings similar to the kind of connection you would get when you're stroking a dog, or spending time with your partner, or engaged in a really meaningful conversation. And notice it feels good just to even imagine being in a warm bath, surrounded by candles, feeling deeply relaxed. But that's not the only thing that can help deal with difficult emotions. While you're in the bath, I want you to remember a time when you were inspired to do something active, perhaps some exercise. I want you to recall a time that you felt bored, and in that moment of boredom, you changed your footwear and you went over perhaps to an exercise bike, perhaps to a rower, perhaps something else, and you just allowed yourself to move your body. You elevated your heart rate, which changed your emotional state. You were breathing more rapidly, which changed your emotional state. After a while, your brain started releasing other happy hormones like dopamine, perhaps even endorphins, maybe serotonin. So it felt good while you were exercising. Perhaps it felt good after you'd accomplished whatever you set out to achieve. And I want you to imagine you're not just exercising. You're exercising while watching perhaps a movie or a TV show. And I want you to imagine that after a couple of minutes, you completely forget that you're even exercising. You're so immersed in the movie, so immersed in the TV show. Your legs are moving, your body's moving, but you're not even aware of what it's doing. Your heart rate is higher, your breathing is faster, perhaps you're even sweating and you don't even notice because all of your attention is on that screen. And while it's on the screen, you've got into a deep, deep trance where you're able to exercise unconsciously. And so many things you do in life are unconscious. You don't have to think when you blink. You don't have to make an effort to breathe in and out. You don't make your heart beat faster or slower. You don't force your intestines to digest your food. And therefore, a lot of what is happening all by itself. And how good would it feel to be immersed in a TV show or a movie? And at the end of that show or movie, perhaps you look at a dashboard on this piece of exercise equipment and then you realize that hundreds of calories have been utilized without you even really realizing. And if you do that once a week, it gives you some value. And if you do it a few times, it gives you even more value. And I want you to entertain the suggestion that the new answer to not just boredom, but any uncomfortable emotion is doing something that actually changes your body's biochemistry. Why would you settle for a sugar rush from eating popcorn or cookies? Or the change in your biochemistry from eating salty food like processed foods? When you can have wonderful, original, natural feel-good, happy hormones in your blood that come from things like oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin and endorphins. And the more of that is naturally released from you making great choices, the more you're rewarding your body for making these choices. And therefore, the more of these choices you make, the more you will want to make them. You'll develop a craving to watch movies and TV shows while exercising. And you'll develop a craving that whenever you're bored or just in a bad mood, every now and then, to have a long, relaxing bath. And then recall that you're not actually on an exercise bike. That's just a memory in your mind while you're relaxing in a bathtub. And then I want you to recall that the bathtub is just a thought from a version of you looking at a castle in a faraway land. And as you look at the castle, I want you to see that the castle looks more pristine now. Like the walls have been improved. The castle looks even more beautiful than it does before. Because this castle that you're looking at can protect itself in new ways that it couldn't do before. And your mind can protect you in new ways that it couldn't do before. Why eat cookies and popcorn when there are now things that do the job so much better? And baths and exercise and watching a good TV show are not the only things that will work. It just creates the idea in your mind that there are so many alternatives to snacking and eating food when you're bored or stressed or angry or any emotion that feels uncomfortable in that moment. And if your unconscious is happy to accept the suggestion that you have so many choices as to what to do when you're bored, or if you want to change your mood, things that are good in the moment and good for the long term, that take your life in the direction that you want to take them, just let me know by nodding your head. Your unconscious mind desires to make positive changes that are good in the moment and good for the long term. And I want you to create an image of a future version of you, perhaps a year or 2 years in the future, that if you were to do healthy, relaxing choices as the primary way of dealing with difficult emotions, as opposed to using food or drink to do that, I want you to see that future version of you, the version of you that exercises when you're bored or when you're stressed or perhaps anything else that you feel. And notice that over time, you can do it more and more frequently until it creates a future version of you where you look more confident, slimmer, happier. What you've lost in body fat, you've gained in confidence and high self-esteem. And I want you to see that future version of you as the equivalent of the same improvements that you've seen in this castle. I want you to see in you. This is an improved version of you, an elevated version of you, an evolved version of you, simply by choosing a better choice to deal with those emotions. And as you look at the castle, see that beautiful castle even more beautiful than before, you realize all of this are just ideas within ideas, thoughts within thoughts, dreams within dreams, as you return to the present, listening to the sound of my voice, becoming aware of your breathing in and breathing out. I want you to take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Just wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, get a sense that all parts are back in the present, but allow all those changes to come with you. New ways of thinking that take your life in the very direction that you desire most. Very soon I will count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. You will awaken feeling resourceful, motivated, with new options that you're eager to test, to create the foundations of new habits, new ways of thinking and behaving that give you more of what you want and less of what you don't. Starting to count to awaken you. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.